This committee of the whole meeting for October 1st, 2024 is hereby called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Barrero.
Here.
Alderwoman Garza.
Here.
Alderman Masiacos. Alderman Donnell.
Here.
Alderman Franco.
Here.
Alderman Seville.
Here.
Alderman Tolliver.
Here.
Alderwoman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Bug.
Here.
Alderwoman Bade. Here. Alderman Lash.
Present.
Alderman Warman.
Here.
Mayor Irvin's present.
Is there approval of the minutes of Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, committee of the whole meeting?
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Franco. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries by voice vote. Mr. Muhammad, do we have any presentations this evening or report?
Yes, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Under the Mayor's report, we have a number of highlights on this first day of October, first ever events that happened this past weekend. But before we do that, I just want to acknowledge the month of October is so full with so many awareness days and awareness recognitions, including Cybersecurity Awareness Month that our city is celebrating. We'll do proclamations for that next week. Breast Cancer Awareness Month, HIV/AIDS Awareness Month, Mental Health Awareness Month. We'll do that proclamation next week as well with a number of our mental health providers as we make an exciting announcement then. It's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month and Bully Prevention Month. October's chock full. Fire Prevention Month is this month as well as the LGBTQ History Month, different than Pride Month in June, the history of the LGBTQ community. It's also Italian American Heritage Month and Filipino American History Month as well. So when you talk about the Aurora community, we certainly can see it realized this month of October, including this week, where tomorrow we'll celebrate as a staff Gandhi's 155th birthday. On Thursday, we will honor German Unity Day with the German flag raising. And on Friday, we will have our first ever Italian flag raising, celebrating Italian American Heritage Month, bringing us one Aurora together again. But as we know, nothing really brings people together like the universal languages of food and music. So again, on this first day of October, as we go into this last quarter of the year, we want to honor two first ever happenings, two first ever events that happened in Aurora this past weekend that brought thousands, literally thousands of people to downtown Aurora to dine, to have a great time, to dance, and just to celebrate us as a community. First ever being our Fall Food Truck Festival.
You need Friday night dinner plans out in West Suburban Aurora. You can spend the evening with friends at the first ever Fall Food Truck Festival.
Years of successful spring festivals, Aurora is bringing its popular Food Truck Fest to the fall.
You can also check out Suburban Aurora. It's holding its first Fall Food Truck Festival today. It starts at 5 p.m. 25 food trucks will be located in the city's downtown area.
Well, of course, tomorrow is the first Friday of fall, and to celebrate, Aurora is hosting its first ever Fall Food Truck Festival.
Joining us now to talk all about it, Mike Nelson, the Director of Community Events in Aurora. Hi, Mike.
Hey, thank you for having me.
This sounds so big. More than 25 food trucks tomorrow, and they come from all over the Chicago area. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's correct. My team actually squeezed in 2 more today, so we're up to 27. We've got food trucks coming in from all over the Chicagoland area. We're going to have every kind of food possible.
We hope you have a tasty, exciting event tomorrow. In Aurora tonight, crowds converge downtown to experience dozens of food trucks, everything from appetizers to main courses, even dessert. Aurora has hosted a spring food truck festival for years. This is their first go at it during the fall.
Big round of applause to our community events team. Pulling that off, we're going to ask the mayor to join us down front as we recognize part of that team with the mayor's MVP award. You know, the mayor, after last spring's food truck festival, we've been doing a number of years through Aurora downtown. The mayor says, why can't we do a fall one? You know, and this team pulled it off, his vision off, with 4,000 plus people joining us downtown Aurora. For a wonderful celebration, and we have the Mayor's MVP Award. We're going to ask our Community Events Director, Mike Nelson, to please step down. Big round of applause for Mike. Not only is he a great leader of his division, clearly he's a wonderful spokesman for the city, and he did that interview flawlessly, and people were saying, why isn't he on TV more? So we're going to figure that out. We're going to present our first MVP award to our Community Events Director, Mike Nelson.
Now, when our folks go above and beyond, our employees and our managers and directors at the City of Aurora, we like to award them with something special. Now, all of our people here at the City of Aurora are amazing people, and they do a great job. But every so often, we get those that go above and beyond. And for those individuals, we give them the Mayor's Office of the MVP Award. Mayor Richard C. Irvin's MVP Award today is honorably presented to Mike Nelson for your leadership in the first ever Aurora Aurora Fall Food Truck Festival. Thank you for your help in establishing a successful new event in Aurora. You are valued and appreciated, brother. Tongue twister.
Yes. We also have our manager of the division, Carla Thomas, leading the way.
Let me see if I can get that right this time. This MVP award is presented to Carla Thomas for your leadership in the first ever Aurora Fall Food Truck Festival. Thank you for your help in establishing a successful new event in Aurora. You are valued and appreciated.
Yes. Thank you. We also have our lead coordinator for the division, Felicia Freitag.
And this MVP award is presented to Felicia Freitag for her leadership in the first ever Aurora Fall Food Truck Festival. Thank you for your help in establishing a successful new event in Aurora, one that we will do every year from this point on. You are valued and appreciated.
And our community events assistant, Kayla Price.
Come on, Kayla.
Now, Caleb is relatively new with us, and she has already earned a MVP award for all her hard work. So this award goes to Caleb Price for your leadership in the first ever Aurora Fall Food Truck Festival. Thank you for your help in establishing a successful new event in Aurora. You are valued and appreciated.
We have other members of the team who couldn't be here tonight, but we'll honor them. But thank you all for initiating yet another new event, first class fashion. Another round of applause for our community events team. Let's do a group picture with the mayor. Again, 4,000 people came out Friday night. Not only was there food, there were activities. There was a house music DJ. You'll see the connection in just a minute. But just a great time held by all and a nice crisp Friday evening in downtown Aurora. Another round of applause for our community. Thank you. That was Friday night. Thousands of people downtown on Benton Street. House music at that event. Segue into Saturday night, the first ever A-Town House Music Festival. Again, another vision by the mayor. Let's take a look first at a recap. Over 3,000 people joined us at River Edge Park. Some of the most iconic house music DJs over the last 40 years from Chicago, and including those from Aurora. Star performers, and just a wonderful time held by all. There's the star of the show. And we honored those Aurora House DJs for their 40 years of work. And a round of applause for the entire team who made that happen. Take a look back first at how this came about. and where we're going to take it in the future.
40 years ago, a youth-led music movement started among the DJs of Chicago, combining soul, R&B, funk, electronica, and irresistible beats.
Now, the city of Aurora is celebrating 4 decades of all things house music with the A-Town House Music Fest. It's a night of nonstop music featuring a mix of 14 performers and DJs playing their own curated sets. Aurora Mayor Richard Irvin and Farley Jackmaster Funk join us with more. Thanks for being here, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mayor, tell us how you two got connected and are creating this first ever event in Aurora. That is awesome.
Well, me and Farley have known each other for years. Yeah, I mean, for 40 years, ever since house music started back in the day. He'd be out in Aurora spinning, and we were all young kids just having a good time.
The king of house music.
Yes,
Sir,
ma'am.
where do you even begin when you're creating a festival? Who do you call? Who is that first call?
Well, it's so many amazing guys. You know, I come along with a group called the Hot Mix 5, and from that, you know, Richard, he's a house head. And so that's what we call people who love house music. You're a house head. Not a crackhead, but a house head.
An important
distinction. One Aurora means bringing everybody together, just bringing people together to celebrate all of our cultures. And house music brings it all together. Yeah, I expect that we're going to have all kinds of folks here, young and old, out there housing it up, jacking it up, out there perculating.
Aurora's Mayor Richard Irvin will also hold a percolator dance contest.
Oh, snap.
It's time for the percolator. A question here, though. I mean, is it the West Side percolator or the South Side percolator? Or can you do any percolator for this contest here? You know, there are separate percolators.
It's time for the percolator.
I am shocked. That is Aurora's Mayor Richard Irvin with a pretty nice percolator there, if I don't say so myself. He got the contest started. Thousands came out to celebrate Aurora's first ever house festival. Now, A-Town House Music Festival was held at River Edge Park and coincided with the 40th anniversary of house music. On Saturday, nearly 3,000 people danced to performances by Fast Eddie, CeCe Peniston, and the Out Here Brothers.
They're all getting down in Aurora.
This is
Look at
amazing.
How about that?
So much fun. All right, Mayor Richard Irvin. He gets some props for me.
Show it up.
Big round of applause to the mayor for his vision and everyone for making that happen. Mayor, if you could just talk a little bit about your vision, what happened that we're going to
Well, first of all, as you can see, I was a little active on stage there, and I haven't quite recovered yet, which is why I can't string a sentence together, and I'm making these faux pas, saying words that I don't expect to come out of my mouth. But yeah, in thinking about the culture that has kind of been established and started kind of here in Aurora with Mike Hitman Wilson, one of the original DJs, with Farley Jackmaster Funk, who used to come to Aurora all the time. We started out when we were teenagers. Matter of fact, my cousin, who is also a DJ and was real good friends with Mike Hitman Wilson, Kenny Kick and Cahill, we used to, hang out and DJ all the time back in the day with 2 turntables built up on some milk crates. So, that became a culture that created a genre of music that lasted for 40 years. One that, as kids playing around, in your bedrooms or in your basement, you never thought would catch on, but has not just affected Aurora and the state of Illinois and in our country, United States of America, but something that has been experienced and loved around the world. And it got its start right here in Chicago, and in many cases right here in the city of Aurora. So when the idea was brought up for us to have this house fest and revisit our youth and the excitement, you could see the excitement of everybody there. There's over close to 3,000 people in that park just having a great time. I walked through the crowd and so many people said they're so happy that we had this. There's such a good feeling, such a euphoric feeling, and a feeling that made us feel young again. And you saw the folks out there, there was young and old, black, white, Latino, Indian, Asian. There was everybody out there together having a good time. It truly represented one Aurora that night. And it's something that I'd like to make sure that we repeat year after year after year. But, I just want to thank all the DJs for participating. And we had a Aurora DJ, Chicago DJs from all around the Chicagoland area. And everybody was excited and pumped up. Matter of fact, we had CeCe Peniston that came all the way out from California. The Out the Out There Brothers. You know, we had Fast Eddie singing songs. We just had everybody you could think of that was part of the house culture as we were growing up, and everybody was still into it, just like we were when we were teenagers dancing in the basement, in our mother's basement, or in some bedroom somewhere, mixing with milk crates piled up with our turntables. So I just want to thank Ken Cahill, who's here right now, and all the other DJs that he represents, and say, look, let's plan for even a bigger and better one. No one knew what this was going to be when we first started talking about it. No one knew that it was going to be this success and this epic, but it was. And that shows us that this genre of music that was created here at home is something that will continue to last the test of time and something that we want to continue to celebrate. So thank you guys, and we really appreciate the opportunity to have this. It was amazing.
And thank you, Mayor. And we want to thank the Aurora Civic Center Authority, particularly two people there, Jim Jarvis and Christian Hubbard, who really carried the ball.
And let me just say that Jim and Christian, who was born and raised here in the city of Aurora and knew about house music and the feeling that expressed it, those guys were outstanding. Again, this was something brand new that we had never done before. Matter of fact, I don't think it's ever been done this big outside of the city of Chicago in the whole state of Illinois. And we didn't know what to expect, but we knew that it would be something special. And those guys had our back the whole way and made it as successful as it was. So we want to give them so much credit for everything that they did put into this. Jim was there with us from the beginning, planning. Christian right there, making sure that it was the epic experience that we all saw and felt. So I want to thank them. ACA stepped up tremendously.
And along with the two from ACA and the ACA team, we have two DJs who helped to build the sound. One is Mike Hitman Wilson, one of the pioneers of house music, one of the Hot Mix 5, born and raised here in Aurora. We did a street dedication for him because in that house studio at 1660 Lily Street is where his home studio is where house music really began, and here in Aurora and out to Chicago. One of our Aurora legends, we call him. We also had another Aurora legend who's here with us tonight, the mayor's cousin, as he said, but he's so integral to the house music sound and still DJing to this day. Almost 40 years later, both Mike Hitman Wilson and Kenny Cahill were so instrumental in building the House Music Fest, from their expertise to getting the artists to just organize and everything. We honor them both with Mayor's Awards of Excellence on the stage that night, along with other house DJs. But we want to recognize Kenny again tonight. Kenny, he played a set. His set was so off the chain. So we have a collective picture of you and all your set playing, and bringing you down to share some words as well. Give a round of applause for Kenny.
Okay, this was unexpected. No, this was something that's been near and dear to us for many years. Being able to do this at home, because we've seen it so many years in Chicago. They have this picnic, The Chosen Few, when they first started over 20 years ago. The first one had like 25 people. This is Aurora's first. We had almost 3,000 people. So we're looking to build on that and keep it going. The response I've been getting on social media, everyone's looking for something to happen this winter, and it's like, it's like, wait a minute, that took some time to plan for this one, so nobody wants to wait till next year. So I don't know, we'll see what's gonna happen, but I really appreciate this. I appreciate the opportunity. Working with Jim and Christian was a blessing. Those two guys, those are my MVPs right now. So me and Mike, we just had a good time going through the whole planning process and getting everything. And when I seen this man come from backstage, right, it was like almost right after my set, and he the smile on his face, I was like, okay, yeah, we did it. And I've had my moments, and especially this one, thanks to my man Tom, your photographer Tom Key. Yes, we did it. So Aurora, we looking to keep you going. I don't know what else to say. Appreciate it.
Round of applause.
Thank you. So we look forward to next year, building this and growing this and making it special. On this October 1st, celebrating two first ever events, the Fall Food Truck Festival and the A-Town House Music Festival. Looking forward to a successful fourth quarter here in the City of Lights. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Now, I had heard tell that some aldermen here knew how to dance and do the percolator, but I didn't see them on stage. I would have welcomed them up there. I know they had to be. Oh yeah, I know. Not percolating though. and Brandon, he was too young. He had to be at least 40 years old. Celebrating our 40-year anniversary of house
Clayton
music.
told me I was too old. He sat me down. He said, "You need to sit down."
All right, I know there might be a few people here that are here for presentations, so before we get into the regular course of business, I want to give you an opportunity to file out. If you want to stay for the whole meeting, you feel free to. We welcome you, but otherwise we'll give you an opportunity to leave. All right, everyone that has wanted to leave has left the city council chambers. We'll go on to the regular portion of our agenda. Let's go on to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment?
We do.
Will you read the rules of public comment, please?
Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, all persons shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the council. Under our rules, any person may address the committee of the whole for up to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for all public comment. No person other than the timekeeper or the chair for the purpose of maintaining order may interrupt a person recognized for public comment during his or her comments. Members of the committee of the whole shall not engage with nor respond to a speaker during the time set aside for public comment. Staff is directed to follow up with members of the public with respect to any concerns raised during public comment within the scope of the city's authority following the adjournment of this meeting.
Will you call the first speaker wishing to offer public comment?
Peter Andrews.
Mr. Andrews, if you take that podium right over here to my left, you're right. Mr. Andrews, you have 3 minutes to speak beginning now.
Good evening. My name is Peter George Andrews. I'm a third-generation Aurora resident, and in 3 weeks I'll be celebrating 75 years here in this town. I live at 260 Lakeview Drive for the past 25 years, and my backyard is Orchard Avenue. Yesterday's front page article is what caused me to be here today. I'm sorry I didn't have more time to prepare, but it's regarding the SSA plan for the replacement of a very dilapidated fence along Orchard. And I'd like to thank Alderman Franco in the city for at least addressing this issue, because it's been over 10 years in the making that this sound barrier or lack of a sound barrier be addressed, and it's appreciated. I'd invite any one of you to come and sit in my backyard, since my backyard is Orchard Avenue, and try to carry on a conversation. You simply can't do it with all the truck traffic there. It's interesting to me that this same council rejected Old Dominion's proposal to build a center on the far east side of Aurora because of the noise that would be generated by the truck traffic, yet they just located a few miles south of our subdivision. I just want to, I figured the best way to do this in my objection to this SSA, a special service area is designed for new development. It's designed to bring new roads, new water, sewer, and that. It's not for an existing development, it's for an incentive for new development to take place. And I understand why SSAs are developed, but I developed a little chart to make it a little clearer. There's a $235,000 shortfall to complete this project, and there's 74 contiguous homes to Orchard in this way. That's you're asking the homeowners $3,176 to complete this project. Now we're told that our property tax is going to increase an average of $200 a year. Well, I don't know if you got your assessment, but my assessment keeps going up, and my guess is that $200 is probably pretty light. And that was not in the article. It's not just a $200 assessment, it's for 30 years. And I'm not about to think I want to add a 30-year lien to my house or another mortgage to my house for 30 years. That comes to $6,000 per homeowner to complete this. And over that 30-year period, it's not $235,000. Those 74 contiguous homeowners will pay $444,000 to complete this sound barrier. Back 20 years ago, when this was built, I was still living there. Orchard was changed to...
Excuse me, sir, your 3 minutes are up, but I would like you to continue your conversation with someone from our Public Works Department, and probably Carl Franco, who is the Alderman of Ward 5, so you can talk a little bit more about that. Secondly, happy birthday coming up soon. And third, I like the black and red you're wearing there. It's Tomcat colors, but I see you have a Black Hawk on there, so it's throwing me off a little bit.
Wait a second. I did this just for you and Clayton.
There you go.
I'm a Tomcat at heart.
Hey, there you go, bro.
but I'm not here just to...
But we can't let you talk anymore because you're 3 minutes up. But if someone from Public Works can, just follow up with the gentleman, we'll... talk some more, but you feel free to come back and talk for 3 minutes again. We can only do 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. And appreciate that Tomcat button. Madam Clerk, call the next speaker.
Adam Pauley.
Mr. Paul, you have 3 minutes to speak beginning now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here once again to talk about mental health and harm reduction. I hope that the city will be doing that sooner than later and partnering with our health department to do that. Michelle Myers, who used to run Mutual Ground, and her team have a long track record of excellence. They are the only organization that is capable of leading the conversations that need to be had in our communities in regards to mental health and addiction. They have a fully dedicated staff that their resumes are impressive. A track record of excellence is the only way to describe them. They are the ones that are going to be able to lead this effort. I hope that the city partners with them on the harm reduction, and that happens not only with the distribution centers, but also with partnering with the health department and our APD, as 10 other departments already have in Kane County, to provide the distribution as well. Unfortunately, this is an area where we have fallen behind, and it is what it is. But we can change that by getting this policy area fixed. And I truly hope that that does happen, because our people are too valuable. What is the value of a happy and healthy population? I don't have the answer to that, but it's pretty valuable. And the other thing that I would like to express today is the opioid money that the city has received, and it's my knowledge that they're going to continue to receive. I hope that the conversations about how that money is going to be spent happens out in the public. The county has led in this area. They had a public body that talks about these things in the daylight. It's led by a lot of people at the health department, but it's still a public meeting that anybody can go and attend and give their input in and things like that. It's very similar to the Block Grant Working Committee, in my mind anyway. I hope that these conversations can happen in the light. I really, truly do. And I hope that our harm reduction can happen sooner than later, because we cannot afford to wait. As I've mentioned, suicide is one of the leading causes of death with our young people, and somebody dies from an overdose in this country every 5 minutes. This needs to stop, and we are personally responsible for the deteriorating conditions that are happening under us. That's a mark that we all have on our souls, and I don't think that it's worth trading in salvation for our lack of effort. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Madam Clerk, call the next speaker.
He was the final speaker.
Name?
That was last.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Let's go on to committee reports. Chairwoman Patty Smith, can you give the Building, Zoning, Economic Development Committee report, please?
Sure can, Mr. Mayor. The Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee met on September 25th, 2024, and reviewed the following items. Item number 24-0519, an ordinance establishing a conditional use plan development and approving the Wheatland Athletic Association plan description for the property located at 2323 Liberty Street. 24-0520, with consent.
With no objections, the item will go on consent.
24-0520, a resolution approving a final plan for the property located at 2323 Liberty Street for a special purpose recreational institution use. Consent.
No objections, the item will go on consent.
24-0521, an ordinance vacating a detention easement on the property located at 2323 Liberty Street in DuPage County, Aurora 60502.
With no objections, the item will go on consent.
We have the
Alderman-
petitioner here for these if we'd like to hear from
Yeah, I
them.
just wanted
Alderman Buck.
very brief
Yep.
presentation.
Is there someone from staff that can speak on this?
John, maybe if you could pull up the landscape plan. Good evening, Ed Sieben, Zoning and Planning Director, City of Aurora. We'll go back to Wheatland. So this is the existing Wheatland Athletic Association located at Liberty and Wolverine Drive. They've been there for 29 years on the property. This is simply a request for an addition. We'll add about a third additional square footage to the property, about another 14,000 square foot. Looks like John's trying to pull that up. Liberty Street is on the right, north is to the right. Not sure why it's glitching. But the addition is to the south or to the left of the building there. They will be reconfiguring the parking lot, adding some additional parking. They will now have a loop drive system. Many of the kids that come there for practice are dropped off by parents, so this will allow for a drop-off for them. The existing soccer field, that has always been there. It's lit up. That will stay the same except for a new turf field. Green is all the new landscaping. They've worked with staff, and we're all in agreement on that. The addition will be for batting practice, hitting cages, and things like that, which will be a new practice feature for them. And they're here if there's any questions of them.
For the
Alderman-
petition, no, anything
Alderman
for
Bug.
petitioners here if you need that.
Alderman Lash.
Sure. I just wanted a little clarification. When you're saying we're vacating the detention area, what does that mean? And
So-
is something being built on that property then?
Sure. So in the dark gray, sorry for the glitch, but
Yeah, I can't really tell.
where the don't stare at it too long. But the that parking lot, there was formerly the older detention area went over that area. So working with engineering, that area was vacated, and now the easement will be where the actual detention will be. So that's the reason for that.
So there'll still be ample detention.
Say that again, I'm
There'll
sorry.
still be ample detention.
Oh, yes. In
Space.
fact, they're
Okay.
expanding it, yes.
And then my only other question, there was a question I think in the notes from someone showed up to make public comment at the at maybe the hearing, and they asked about increased traffic or parking. Does the petitioner have any assessment of how many more cars, and are we going to have adequate parking?
I can let them answer that. They provided a detailed analysis in the qualifying statement of typical daily activities. I don't know if someone wanted to address that.
Good evening. I'm John Swark. I'm president of DDCA Architects. First question is, at the actual meeting that counted, no one was here to complain about anything. So I'm not sure if you know what happened. The first P&Z meeting I believe we had was a fill-in plan commission chairperson. That the next day, we were notified that it wasn't an official meeting because it wasn't properly done. So we had another meeting that was the official meeting, and there was no one there to complain. And then we did work intensively with the staff to work in the landscaping. And as far as the detention, that easement, the detention basement just gets enlarged at the southwest corner of the existing soccer field. So that's really the only thing.
Questions?
I guess, has there been any community opposition that we're aware
I'm not aware of that. Lisa, did you have anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, there was no one that came to the public hearing. The reason it had to be redone was the fill-in chairwoman failed to swear in during the public hearing, so we, out of abundance of caution, we redid the public hearing, so.
Thank you, Mr.
No
Mayor.
objections, item go on consent.
We'll continue. Item number 240566, an ordinance annexing property being vacant land located at southeast corner of Bilter Road and Nan Street to the city of Aurora, Illinois, 60502.
No objections, item go on consent.
24-0567, an ordinance establishing a conditional use plan development and approving the Aurora Fire Station Number 13 plan description for the property located at the southeast corner of Bilter Road and Nan Street.
No objections, item go on consent.
24-0568, a resolution approving a final plan for the property located at the southeast corner of Bilter Road and Nan Street for the public facilities and services use.
Consent.
No objections, item go on
These
consent.
next two items, Mr. Mayor, are appealable items, and the public has until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, October 2nd, to appeal them. No further action is needed at COW, but I will read them into the record. Item number 240569, a resolution approving the final plan for the Aurora Fire Station Number 9 subdivision located at 7 South 300 Eola Street. And 240570, a resolution approving a final plan on Lot 1 for Eola Fire Station Number 9 subdivision located at 7 South 300 Eola Road for the public facility and services use. And lastly, 24-0679, a resolution authorizing the purchase 2 Case 921 GXR wheel loaders for with the attachments from McCain Industries in the amount of $944,400 and the execution of a related agreements with the state. And just so we don't, they do not make EVs in these types of vehicles. And item number 24-067.
What, I think, I'm sorry, did you have a question on 24-0679?
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering why this wasn't under the Finance Committee.
I think that goes there next, maybe.
Pardon? Okay, it just struck me as more of a finance issue unless there's nothing related to planning and zoning connected to the airport on this.
Is there anyone from staff that placed this on that particular committee?
Planning and zoning is the parent committee for airport owners.
Chris.
Go ahead, Mr. Minnick.
Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer. I believe the reason is that the funds were already appropriated, and so it was just a matter of going through the bid process and selecting the vendor and awarding. If the funds had not been budgeted, then it would have had to go to the Finance Committee as part of that related, to get the authority to expend the funds as well as award the bid.
Council, did you have a point?
Just also, Mr. Mayor, under the ordinance that the Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee is effectively the parent committee for most items that would come out of the airport.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No objection, this item go on consent.
And
Next item.
Lastly, 24-0675, an ordinance approving a revision for the special sign district for Chicago Premium Outlets located at 1650 Premium Outlet Boulevard. And Mr. Mayor, that is the end of what we had for BZ&E.
With no objection, that last item will go on consent. And I'm sorry, that was a no action needed. All right, gotcha. All right, so let's go on to the next committee. Chairman Franco, can you do the Finance Committee report?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee met on September 26, 2024, and reviewed the following items. 24-0599, a resolution authorizing payment to the Kane County Division of Transportation in the amount of $94,445.88 for the city's 50% cost share of recent major roadway repairs to Orchard Road and the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Aurora and the County of Kane for Orchard Road fence replacement. This intergovernmental agreement
Consent.
basically updated since the last one was in 1992.
No objections, item go on.
Unfinished.
I'm sorry, unfinished.
All right, 24-0684, resolution authorizing Director of Purchasing to purchase a 60-month subscription for telephony services and equipment from Avaya LLC, Morristown, New Jersey, for $775,748.40, plus a 3% contingency. This resolution will allow us to move the voice over internet protocol services which is more cost-effective, more flexible, and will allow for integration with other communication tools.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
Next one is 24-0718, a resolution authorizing the city to accept a grant of $600,000 from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for year 24 Open Space Lands Acquisition and Development Grant Program for improvements to Garfield Park. This grant will cover 50% of the cost for Garfield Park renovation
Consent.
and improvements for Phase 1.
No objections, item going consent.
Next one is 24-0719, acceptance of the 2023 annual financial reports for the city, TIF funds, single audit, and GATA reports.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
And we will be talking about something under return items, the COW later in this section, which will be about the compensation for aldermen. And other than that, that concludes the Finance Committee's report.
Thank you very much. Chairman Seville, can you give the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee report, please?
Yes, Mayor, we did meet, and as you know, we forwarded this to the City Council meeting. It was on new business, and we voted favorably for that. So that's the report from PHS&T.
All righty. Thank you very much, kind sir. Chairwoman Garza, can you give the Infrastructure and Technology Committee report, please?
Yes, Mayor. We met on September 23, and we had the item number 240711, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchase to order equipment for Great Bar, Itasca, Illinois, of the amount of $140,000 for River Edge Park and Ward 1.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
That's the only item we have, Mayor. Conclude the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Chairman Warman, can you give the Rules Administration Procedure Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Rules Administration and Procedures Committee meeting met on September 17, 2024, and reviewed the following items. Item number 24-0656, a resolution approving the appointment of Scott Hellinger to Aurora Veterans Advisory Council.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
Next item, 24-0657, a resolution approving the appointment of Juan Liz, Caleb Brown, and Saeed Gabanti to the Aurora Youth Council.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
Last item on the agenda, 24-0705, a resolution approving the appointments of Paish Kandwell, Athedia Sabramium, Vinyad Pandi, and Swati Singh to the Indian American Committee Outreach Advisory Board.
Consent.
Consent.
With no objections, item going consent.
That concludes items on Rules Administration and Procedures Committee.
Thank you, kind sir. That concludes the committee reports. Let's go on to the item return to COW. Madam Clerk, can you read that item, return to COW?
240606, an ordinance setting the compensation of the alderpersons for the terms commencing in and after May of 2025 in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code and the Local Government Officer Compensation Act.
So, Mr. Mayor, I can address all that.
All right.
So, at last
Alderman
meeting,
Franco.
we were talking about the compensation for the aldermen. We had something in place, and then there was an amendment made. Because we really didn't have a chance to go over the amendment because of the way it was presented, we felt we should come back to finance to discuss, not vote on, discuss, to see if those numbers were reasonable, appropriate going forward. Part of the initial discussion was that we probably should have put a percentage on each year because that's what we have historically done. So we basically went back and did just that. So the numbers that Alderman Buckhead proposed from June 1st to 2027 to May 31st, 2028, $32,500. To get there, we felt that it was a 27% increase. That first year would be a 27% increase as opposed to the numbers we had going forward, which was a 10%. So we assigned a percentage to that, which is about $7,000. Then for every year after that, for the next 3 years, was a 5% increase. So basically the change was the first year, because the committee felt comfortable with providing the committee as a whole how we got there and why we got there and the amount basically as a percentage. So
You mean with the original proposal of 10%?
Well, we went from the original proposal to 10 to 27%.
Gotcha.
When we did it at the meeting, the amendment, it was just a number. It wasn't as consistent when you go percentages, and we've always done percentages. So we basically put the percentage on that, what that would actually be. So going forward, the committee thought we could bring this back with the percentages and then address it and vote on it at the city council, because we just basically recommended going forward that this is something that would be palatable to the council and we could live with it and vote on it at the next meeting. So that's basically the gist of it.
All right, so now let's have the discussion on it. Questions or discussion? Alderman Smith.
So Alderman Franco, just to confirm, the 10% that you guys originally discussed up to the now 27%, did you say?
From 10 to 27.
is a difference of $7,000. Is that correct?
No, that's the total of what it was going to be. So the math is, it would be 27%, not 27% on top of the 10%.
So if we were looking at what you guys originally discussed at June 2027, that would have gotten us to 28,146.80. With this 27%, we go to 32,500?
Yes, so
in
the difference is
2020
about 4,400. I mean, that's
Okay.
the difference between the two.
And that's in 2027?
That's in 2027, yes. So
Okay.
that doesn't happen for a number of years going forward. And that's part of the conundrum with this process. You have to do it so far in advance. You're always guessing, trying to figure out where we're going to be nationwide with inflation and stuff like that. It's always a tough situation for us. So we may, in the future, we may address that too, but for now, we're just looking at going forward with the 4 years we do in advance. And the committee felt that it would be somewhat appropriate to put that amount there to get us where we think we should be. Because the problem is always, how much do you do to get to the point where you only have to do cost of living increases, the generic ones, 2.5% to 3%. So the committee felt that maybe that 10% wasn't going to get us there, and we'll be nickel and diming it for the next 10 years. So there was a feeling that we just did one bump now, maybe going forward later on, we could just do like we did with the mayor. We felt he was in an appropriate place. We put 2.5%, which is historically what we do, and going forward, we could probably just go with that as opposed to the big bump. So I guess it was felt that the big bump had to happen sometime, so let's do it now. I think that was the thought process going forward.
And then my final question too, is that when you guys, as we were doing this prior to this particular period, aldermen had typically been given 3 or 4% each year, even though it was a 12% inflation. Is that correct?
Well, so
take us back just a little bit.
So 2 years ago, last couple of years, inflation's gone up 14%. Okay, nothing we can do about it now because our salaries are set for the next 3 years.
Right.
So how do you combat that? How do you project where you would be with that inflation bump? Which once it kind of goes up, it's there for a while. So we figured that it would be at least appropriate to try to get us that 14% right off the get-go. But we still may have been behind because even though we thought over the last 2 cycles we were doing a good job to getting us up there, we kind of always fell short because you're always reluctant, even though you're not voting for your own, you're always reluctant to have that bigger bump to get you where you want because it just looks bad. But at the end of the day, is it a fair compensation for what we do? And at some point you have to balance that. So we thought that maybe this big bump would get us there, and then going forward we can get us to the normal 2.5% to 3%, like you have in most of the contracts with the city. So that was the philosophy and thought process going forward.
And lastly, and then I will heal. It's important to understand that we're not voting on increases for ourselves. We're voting on increases for whomever may be sitting in these seats in 2027. So we do have to continue to look out for the city and in our seats, even if we're not the ones sitting in them. So with that, thank you for the work the Finance Committee has done.
Questions, comments?
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
During finance, we discussed, aside from the compensation, we just discussed the number of years that this would be. I forwarded some documents to Mr. Veenstra. I don't know, I'm certain your co-counsel gave those to you. So I wanted to get, you made a statement at our last meeting. I put together a chart kind of laying out how to do a 2-year increase and then come back in 2 years and do a reevaluation. So I just wanted your input. You thought at the meeting last time that there may be some problems.
Thank you, Alderman Bug. Alderman, if you go out far enough, it is possible to do these in 2-year increments, essentially, where the Finance Committee would be looking at the compensation every 2 years of the alderman without creating a situation where they would be setting the compensation or changing the compensation for an alderman who's already holding office. So if you do go out further enough and you do set them in 2-year increments, you can do that.
What do you mean by go out far enough? Explain what you mean by that.
You need to go out at least as far as, so you're not changing the compensation of anybody currently holding office during their current term of office.
So what you're saying is, if this determination was made, it couldn't be made now. It'd have to be made, or if we voted on doing every 2 years, it wouldn't be able to take effect for, say, 4 years in the future.
You would have to go
2.5.
You would have to go 2.5 years, which is what I think the alderman is saying, as opposed to having changes effectively immediate with the next term.
Right.
So,
and that was my point, and that's what I brought up at finance. So us in looking at this, the last year that we are trying to analyze in 2024 is 2030. 6 years from now, we're setting that compensation right now. But if we set 2 years, 27 and 28 right now, then in 2 years, in the year 2026, you would analyze and evaluate the years 2029 and 2030. You always 2.5 years out, and thus, as Alderwoman Smith said, you are not voting on compensation for your own seat, you're voting on compensation for people who will be inaugurated and sitting there in 2.5 years. So, what we learned over the last, this time, 4 years ago, it's impossible to gauge compensation for 6 years from now. None of us knew that COVID was going to happen. And to answer your question a little bit more, the first year we had a 0 compensation increase. That's what happened. And rightfully so. It was during the middle of COVID, and the whole world was suffering, and we gave ourselves 0%. And then we went 3.35. But that was what I brought up at finance. I feel like that's a better, you can get a better gauge. You can gauge 27 right now, 28, whatever body, the finance committee or whatever body we decide comes back in 2 years, and they take another look at it. And they decide what's going to happen in 29 and 30. So
Council, just to be clear, with Alderman, so there's two different things we're talking about. One is the compensation based on the percentages that have been presented today and last week. So just to be clear, what you're asking council to vote on today when we're talking about compensation is the amendment. So we're getting pretty much getting away from the original proposal of 10% and going to the amendment, once we take the vote on the amendment itself.
Well, we didn't vote on it at finance. We discussed it, and we recommended that the amendment numbers were appropriate as long as we placed a percentage on those to show how we got from point A to point B, as opposed to just throwing a number out there. So that was kind of what that was about.
Council.
I think there, right now, what is before the city council, sitting as committee of the whole, is the proposition that came out of the RAP committee 2 weeks ago with that recommendation. At the last city council meeting, Alderman Bugg made a proposal that included an adjustment as far as the compensation numbers. That amendment, after being discussed, was withdrawn on Alderman Bugg's request. Then there was a subsequent finance committee meeting where the members of the finance committee discussed different concepts, and we're back here today with no change in the recommendation from the finance committee. So it's before the committee of the whole right now is the original proposition that came out of finance. And the question right now is, what, if anything, is going to be submitted to city council next week as the proposition to be voted on?
So would Alderman Bugg have to present the amendment once again for council to consider now and pass it forward to city council?
Theoretically, that conversation could happen next week at city council. It would be easier from a legislative drafting purpose if there was consensus at the committee of the whole right now, so we would know to finalize that resolution to the greatest extent we could and have it as a item that the council could vote on without further amendment.
But wouldn't it be easier if we just voted on this amendment right now?
It would be easier, but I think there's two different concepts that are floating.
Well, and then we're talking about the second concept. We'll get into that in a second. Go ahead, finish council.
I think the council needs to decide whether or not it's going to do the 222 proposition.
Okay, now let's talk about that one for a second, because I think compensation is a little bit different than that one. So the consideration of every 4 years, is that in our ordinance, or is that some kind of procedure or policy that we've just simply followed?
It's been a custom, but even if it was in our ordinance, the council could deviate from that.
Okay. So is that something that they should talk about in detail at RAP, so they can determine how we're going to proceed forward, or is it something we should be considering right now?
My advice would be for the council to resolve the issue, whether it's going to do the adjustments in 2-year increments or 4-year increments. Once that's done, it becomes easier, since there seems to be consensus as to what the numbers are going to be in terms of compensation.
So then you're suggesting that should happen now?
I would suggest that we, to the council, to the greatest extent it can, resolve the 2-year, 4-year issue, and then after that, move on and settle the numeric issue.
All right. So that's two different votes, and that first one isn't, that first one about changing from 4 years to 2.5 years, that's not something that we had published that we were going to talk about.
Within the scope of what's being set here in terms of the compensation, you are setting the compensation for the aldermen and for the terms commencing in and after 2025.
Well, then so you guys want to have a little more conversation about the 2.5 versus 4 years? Then let's do that.
Yes, I mean, certainly we're going to have more conversation, but the two items can be taken together. The motion would be for the compensation to be 32.5 in 2027 and a 5% increase in 2028. And that would be the motion. So there wouldn't be any other addition to the motion. There wouldn't be consideration of 29 and 30. So
is that correct, counsel?
That would be one way to do it, but I think we will probably still, unless that one passes, then we'd still have to have that second discussion anyway.
We're going to have them in two different discussions, I would think, to make it clear. So let's just talk about, just to be clear, let's talk about the 2.5 versus 4 years. Any questions or discussions on that? Alderman Smith.
I guess I would like to know the pros and the cons of the two. I mean, I understand what Alderman Bugg said about, going out that far, and I get that. But does anyone here have a con? Is there a reason why we shouldn't do it that way? Does anybody here have an opinion of that? And I do believe there should be two separate motions, by the way. Does anyone have a reason why we should stay with the 4 years?
I would say that if we did 2 years, it makes it easier. It just does. It just, if there's a con out there, I'd like to know what it is, and there might be, but.
And to be clear, we're not 2.5 years, because I assume there's a 2.5 date period. 2.5?
yes, I mean, our compensation begins on June 1st, and the inaugurations are in May, so that's.
2.5,
so it's,
whatever the calendar says, all right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I would say unless there is a con, that makes it easier. It just does, because you're not projecting 4 years, you're projecting 2. And even projecting 2 is not the best thing, but it's better than 4.
Alderman Seville.
I have a question, a clarification question. So if we do this with a 2, or 2.5, whatever you want to call it, does that mean we're adopting a situation where the council will be split in terms of their pay? One will be paid lesser than the other half?
Not as Alderman Bugg is proposing in terms of the way he's charted it, because you are going out far enough where that doesn't present a problem, and you're not affecting the compensation for any alderman who isn't currently in office.
Okay, great.
So there will never be a time, just to be clear, where 6 aldermen make more money than the other 6.
That's as Alderman Bugg has proposed it.
I mean, I'm asking, is it, I understand what he proposed, I'm asking you as counsel, is that true?
Well, the city council at any time can pass an ordinance that would change that, but as it's being presented right now, they are being lockstep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Burrow.
You're talking about the two?
Yeah, 2.5.
I don't have any questions on that, no.
Okay. Alderman Lesh.
Just to clarify, are we going to make a motion tonight? Did you want to formalize a motion? I don't feel strongly about it either way.
We're not there yet, brother.
But
so we'll get there in just 1 second.
We're
going to get there in a second. So any other questions on this particular 2.5 to 4 years? Does everybody understand that? Okay. So then, just to be clean, let's take these votes separately. So do you want to have Alderman Bugg present a motion for us to consider for the 2.5 versus 4, or can you formulate it, Rick, and then we just all kind of jump on.
I think, Alderman, if you would want to put in your motion to set the compensation for the 2 years that you'd like to do, that starts the process.
Right. So the motion is, we are setting compensation for the years 2027, June 1st, 2027, and June 1st, 2028.
Is that, all right.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on that? There being none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Alderman Barrera,
Yes.
Alderwoman Garza,
Yes.
Alderman Donnell,
Yes.
Alderman Franco.
Yes.
Alderman Seville,
Yes.
Alderman Tolliver,
Yes.
Alderwoman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Bug,
Yes.
Alderwoman Vade,
Yes.
Alderman Lash,
Yes.
Alderman Warman,
Yes.
11 yes, 0 no.
Motion carries. The resolution.
Well, the motion.
The motion is approved, yeah. All right, so now we've determined that from this point on, or unless some council in the future decides otherwise, that we'll consider this every 2 to 2.5 years, given whatever the date is. Starting in 2027, and then, in 2028, I guess. So, all right,
No,
so
no,
now, I'm sorry, starting in 2027.
Let me clarify. No, not starting in 2026, we will consider 28,
Oh, gotcha,
or
gotcha.
29 and 30.
30.
That'll
Gotcha,
be the 2.5
Right,
years.
right. Yeah, 2.5, whatever, 2 to 2.5
Right,
years.
2.5.
I think we all got that. We'll work out the calendar and how many months it is. All right, so now we're past that. So now let's talk about the compensation portion. As it rests today, it still sits at the original amendment, or not even amendment, original thing that came forward, which 10%, and then 5 or something like that. So now, why don't, if we just do what we did last week, Alderman Bug, why don't you give your amendment so we can consider the amendment, and then after the amendment, then we'll vote on the amendment itself. Go ahead.
The amendment was to set the compensation for 2027, June 1st, 2027, at $32,500, which is a 27.1% increase over the last, over 2026. And the subsequent year, June 1st, 2028, would be an increase of 5%. I don't have that exact number in front of me.
Now, does anyone have any, now this is the amendment, which is going to be different than the original suggestion of the 10%. Does anyone have any questions on the amendment itself? Alderman Lesh.
I just want to second it to formalize it
All
before,
right, so there's been a
before
motion.
conversation
Thank you.
begins.
There's been a motion and a second. Questions or discussions on the amendment? Alderman Franco.
So if we vote on this now, we don't take this to city council next week, it's done?
No. We're voting on the amendment for us to move forward to city council.
Good. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, okay?
All right.
I have a,
Alderman Barrera.
So I had the opportunity to talk about this at a neighborhood group meeting last week. I have another one coming up on Saturday. And so the feedback wasn't very enthusiastic. So I'd be interested to see what the residents have to say on Saturday. So originally I thought 10% was a little going to be a hard sell, but the 27% is going to be a lot harder. And being the new person and being appointed, I don't have that history with the residents in the ward right now, but that's what I'm hearing so far.
Question or discussion? Alderman Lesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the resolution stands, I just want to say that I don't have a problem supporting the initial bump to 32.5. I do think as we look at moving forward, it might make sense to shrink the increase, the annual increase, which we're only proposing something for 2028, and a 3% would be 33,475. 2.5% would be 33,312. Just to bring those percentage increases more in line with what the general public might expect to see.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Bug.
I'll respond to that. And I apologize. I don't have all of my notes in front of me. Unfortunately, as I was proceeding to the RAP meeting on near Route 34, I hit something in the road and my tire blew, so I've been spending the afternoon at the tire shop and not going over my notes. But the reason, and I set forth numbers from comparable cities in the area in the Midwest. And what Alderman Burrell said was understandable. Coming out of COVID, a number of municipalities have to do this, and what they have found, the many municipalities were behind where they needed to be. Of course, our first year, we did a 0% increase. Inflation after that first year went to 14%. So that puts us way behind immediately. And COVID impacted us for a number of years. We were at 3% the year after zero and 3% the year after that. And inflation was still up 12 to 14%. So that's kind of the reason. 32.5 was just a number kind of to get us going. I looked at other cities about our same size. Richmond, Virginia is about our same size, 200,000 people. They went from 25,000, which is what we were supposed to get in, I believe, 25,000 to 45,000. That was their bump, a $20,000 bump, because they saw how far behind, and if you just kind of increment it a little bit at a time, you'll never make it up. You'll be doing it forever. And that's the reason you have to have some type of bump to get you going. So even an increase up to 32.5, we're starting, that's not 32.5 today, that's 32.5 beginning in 2027. And so the reason I propose the 5% is, again, to try, we're still playing catch up. We're not caught up. We're not close to being caught up, but we're catching up. If you go back the other direction, you go back down to 2.5, you're behind. You're behind, and then you're setting yourself to be more behind. And you'll never really get to the level where other cities are. Those other cities we talked about were Des Moines, Akron, Ohio, in the mid-40s. So a number of these cities are in the mid-40s, or not in the mid-40s in 2027, they're in the mid-40s in 2024 and 2025. So us just getting to 32.5 in 2027, yeah, we're still behind. So, Alderman Lash, that's the reason for that number.
Any more questions or comments? Coming here. All right, so we're going to vote on this one. Everybody pretty much, that's all right. Everybody pretty much had their say on this. So, and then once we vote on the amendment, then we'll put it on unfinished, so we can address it at City Council. So at this particular time, Madam Clerk, on the amendment, call the roll.
Alderman Barrero?
No.
Alderwoman Garza?
Yes.
Alderman Donnell?
Yes.
Alderman Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Seville?
No.
Alderman Tolliver?
Yes.
Alderwoman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bade? Yes. Alderman Lash?
Yes.
Alderman Warman?
No.
8 yes, 3 no.
Motion carries. The amendment is now the proposal, and that will go, we're going to put this on unfinished. This will go forward to City Council based on the new percentages presented by Alderman Bug and now agreed to by the majority of the City Council. All right, let's go on to the next portion of the agenda under new business. Madam Clerk, you read the item under new business.
240729, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Special Events to issue a permit allowing one additional carnival upon the premises of Chicago Premium Outlets in calendar year 2024.
Consent.
There's been a motion by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Garza. Questions or discussion? Alderman Lash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What kind of carnival are we looking to have?
Carnival. You mean what kind of? There's no house music at this carnival, brother. It's a regular old carnival.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's a traditional carnival. So just carnival rides,
nice concession stands, you name it. What was just there about 3 weeks ago, they'll be doing it again. So
Any
just
other,
typical carnival.
any other questions?
Yeah, real quick.
Alderman Buck.
All of our carnivals have to partner with the nonprofit.
Yep.
Did I miss who they're partnering with?
I have that information and I can follow up with you. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there is a nonprofit involved.
Okay, yeah, please send that to Mr. Jacobson. He can get it to all of us, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Being none, put this on consent with no objection. All right, just make sure you get that information, Alderman Bug.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
So that will go on consent. All right, we're done with new business. Let's go on to Alderman's Corner. Alderman Smith, Ward 8. You know, you let us go home a little early last week, but
Talking out of it last night,
yeah,
didn't
that's
I?
all right.
Who's got the clicker? God, we'll click. Will you be my clicker? 7 minutes, okay. I gotta do what Alderman Franco did, 7 minutes.
8 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna go. Okay, so welcome to Ward 8 update. I'd like to stick more with what I'm doing in my ward than what we are as a city doing in the ward, so mine will be a little bit more around specifically what I am as an alderman doing. So go ahead and click. So Ward 8 has a grant. I will admit I followed Alderman Franco's grant program when I started 6 years ago, and it's proved to work very well in my community. The bottom two pictures you will see, that's an area in Oakhurst that the one all the way over to the left that's real dense was a very unsafe area for people, bikers, runners, strollers, anybody that was out for a walk. It just was overgrown, it was very dense, and people that were coming around that corner were often colliding, and it also felt very unsafe. So I partnered with the Oakhurst community, and you'll see the one with the clearing, got a big clear area now, and they're gonna put some local plants in there and make it look a little bit nicer. So they were approved through one of my Ward 8 grants. Up on the top, that pond, retention was at one point a very, very, very beautiful body of water. This community, Meadow Ridge, took over. Pulte left, they finished building and left, and Meadow Ridge took over the HOA. They're a new HOA, and they kind of got lost a little bit on how to care for the detention pond area there. And at this point, I've approved 2 years of maintenance for them to try to get this back to some form of beautification, because it's the center of their townhomes, and we need to get it back looking pretty. Last one, Lakewood, it's an area I'm working with right now. They want some trees in one of their common areas, so those are some examples of uses of Ward 8 grant programs. Next one, this is more of a citywide than an alderman, but just a quick update. If you haven't seen it, Napleton Valley Hyundai, beautiful, beautiful, open, busy, was a $2.5 million renovation there. They've also are adding on to the back. They are adding an addition with more maintenance in the back area. The dealer row down Ogden is very successful. Right next to it, the Genesis of Aurora, that was a brand new building from ground up, $4 million building. They are up, running, busy, and beautiful. And word has it, I'm not telling any secrets because I won't give it all the way out, that there is another dealership in that area that will be expanding and upgrading their dealership pretty soon. Just like the rest of you guys, one of the biggest issues I have in my community is people speeding. Based on community response and concerns and the outcome of the Yola traffic study, I worked with Ken Sroth in the engineering department and purchased 4 permanent speed radar signs. We placed 2, one going north and one going south on the Yola Road. They are so successful. I added one to McCoy on a curved area where cars tend to pick up speed, and we're replacing one on an older version on Commons. I continue to use the Ward 8 I call it the traveling speed trailer. I move it throughout the ward. It's on a rotation. It goes different places every 2 weeks, and anybody that calls me and says that they're having some problems, I have it put in their community so that while they're there, it really works. And these permanent speed signs, they really have been working. They work when people get up on it, they get past them. You know, there's not much I can do, but just trying to slow people down the best we can. School supplies, my next one. So I changed up my school supply program a little bit a few years ago. Instead of having a big school supply program like you guys do, I chose to reach out to each one of my schools individually. I have 1 high school, 2 middle schools, 5 elementary schools, and one of the largest preschools in the state, all in my ward. So I contact the schools, the resource center and the principal, and ask them for a list of supplies that they need for people in need. They send that list to myself, and I work with the alderman staff, and we fill that list. That way I know it's going straight to people in my ward, in my schools, and I work with them throughout the year and replenish those things that they need. And, you know, really importantly, Wabansie Valley High School, one of the devices that they need, it's a very expensive device, and I'm happy to say that I've been able to really help some students, you know, have the calculators they need for their math class. I also work really closely with my parent-teacher associations and provide them with funding that helps run parent group meetings and program enhancement things for the students. Move on to the next one. Community diaper drive. I saw this come across social media. I grabbed onto it several months ago, put it into action in my community because it's a very, very, very giving community. And from my house, as I did before, I started collecting diapers and needs for babies. Within a couple days, I was able to fill my SUV up with diapers, female products, baby wipes, and, you know, different formula and other things that baby needs. This is just something I really enjoy doing in my community because I really feel like it makes my community feel good to give back, and it has us working together and engaging with one another throughout the ward. Next one, communication is really important to me. I have a strong base with my ward. I'm on 7 or 8 social media pages where I am able to reach out and inform residents and things that are important, either in the ward or in the city. I did start a newsletter like many of you. And I've done it twice a year. This year, I'm cutting back to once a year because of the cost and working on a system with the alderman staff and still how to get these newsletters to people who don't have social media and still want hard copies. So they're working with me so we can put things on social media, but we can also get those who want something sent to the mail to them. So that's going to be a work in progress for us. This again is not this is my ward, but this is not a city project, but it's very important in my ward. It's the Ola Public Library. They're doing a major renovation in that branch. A lot of people don't realize this is the largest circulation library that they have of their 3 libraries. They're adding 9,000 square feet starting in October. It's going to take about 18 months. Adding a lot more study space, meeting rooms, play area, additional technology, more shelving, book area, and overall they're adding to the aesthetics of the library. And all this is being done with no impact to residents in their taxes. These are the fun things we do as aldermen, fun and a lot of work. I've always enjoyed working with 8, 9, and 10 to do our shred events. These are some pictures of us in our shred events. You can see 2023, we got 5.57 tons of shredding. We just had our last shred event a couple weeks ago, and we don't have the tonnage there. In May 2024, I did a cleanup event and collected 18.20 tons of people's junk. These events couldn't go off without the help of the volunteers that come out and help. And I know that our communication department has been really good about sending some of our city staff out to help us. So it's very, very appreciative when you guys come out and help us in these things. Greeno is one of the National Night Out in Ward 8. Greeno just celebrated their 20th year National Night Out. I believe if it's not it's one of the longest running National Nights Out in the city of Aurora. There was about 500 people in attendance at our National Night Out. It was a big deal. We had a ribbon cutting because they have a new playground at their school. In addition to the typical things that the ward provides for National Night Out, I also purchased ice cream for 200 people. Mayor came out. Another reason why this was so special is Dee Hockalo, who is a staff member here at the City of Aurora, along with Chris Harvey. They've been doing this National Night for 20 years. This is their last year. They have built this wonderful program, in fact, that many of our other National Night Out across the city have mirrored these guys have done. So they're going to be missed. We are trying to get somebody to come in, take over for them so that we can hopefully kick off next year without a hitch with a new group. I was honored to be invited to a fireside chat with the City of Aurora Power Women Group. It was a really nice opportunity to get to know some of the women in the City of Aurora and for them to get to know me, you know, outside of sitting up here or sitting in our office. I felt very humbled and very honored to be a part of this discussion, and I really enjoyed getting to know some of the females in our city a lot better through this program. And as you can see, there was a big turnout there. There was a lot of women. And lastly, but not least, twice a year I do pretty large Ward 8 community meetings. I go to HOA meetings throughout the whole year, but twice a year I do these big community meetings at the Ola Center. One of the grand things about these is the Wabansie Valley High School Government Department sends their students to these meetings so that they can learn some of the city government, how government works. So it really adds a lot to these meetings. So I think that makes me enjoy them even more. These meetings are very valuable to my community, very valuable to the people that attend. I usually have 50 to 80 people there. It's a pretty good turnout for a community meeting, and got one coming up real soon. So things are busy, Ward 8. I'm very proud of the work that we do as myself as an alderman, and collaborative, all of us together as a city. We'll just keep on moving forward.
Thank you, Patty Smith. Great job. Alderman of the 8th Ward, making things happen in the city of Aurora. Appreciate that. And great things in Ward 8. All right, there is no need for a closed session tonight. Is there a motion for it? There's been a motion by Alderman Franco, seconded by Alderman Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is hereby adjourned.